Incredible kindness. Young black girl surprises Hell's Angel, discovers amazing gift the next day. Maya's heart raced when she approached the rumbling motorcycle. The afternoon sun painted everything with a golden hue, yet all she could see was the fierce leather jacket of Rogue, the local Hell's Angel. Her mother's warning echoed in her mind. He's a tough one, Maya. Stay away from trouble. But what if this was not trouble? What if it was kindness? It felt like the summer breeze dared her on as she clutched the lopsided card she had made, her fingers dusted with flour from baking cookies. Standing at the edge, she hesitated, an odd mix of excitement and fear twisting in her gut. This was her moral crossroads. She deeply believed that small acts of kindness could transform the world, yet here she was about to challenge the community's perception of the big bad biker. What if they mocked her, called her naive? The very thought felt like nails on a chalkboard. Yet another part of her yearned to prove them wrong, to show them that kindness didn't rely on appearances, that beneath the layers of leather and bravado, maybe Rogue craved warmth too. But what if he laughed in her face, or worse, dismissed her effort completely? When news of her plan slithered through the town, anxiety bloomed inside her. Whispers echoed in her mind. Who does she think she is? That girl is too bold. The pressure hung like a thick fog, suffocating her resolve. What if I'm making a huge mistake? Nervous sweat trickled down her back as Maya pedaled her bike, each stroke of the pedal sending ripples of doubt through her. Could her gesture really chip away at the walls erected by judgment and perception? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. As she arrived, the daunting sight of Rogue's bike loomed large. There was a singular moment. Everything stood still. Her heart thumped in her ears, and time stretched. With shaky hands, she placed the cookies beside the motorcycle and propped the cart against the tire. A flicker of hope kindled in her chest. Perhaps she could bridge that gap. But the urge to flee set in. Her feet felt glued to the asphalt. What if her act of kindness was perceived as foolish? The fire of uncertainty started to pass through her veins with each heartbeat. When Maya returned home, she hugged herself tightly, battling the ghostly weight of anticipation. Would Rogue even notice? Would she become the talk of the town in a way that tangled her stomach? Just as she began to relax, a sudden knock resonated through her door the next morning. What if it was someone coming to reprimand her for her audacity? Or worse, what if it was Rogue himself? As she turned the knob, a storm of emotions clashed inside her. Fear, exhilaration, and uncertainty bubbled up as she opened the door, revealing an old guitar resting on her doorstep, a gift from Rogue. An unshakable tremor ran through her as she laid her eyes on it, feeling the weight of her decisions press down heavily on her. Would she ever find acceptance in a town eager to define her by her choices? Could a guitar truly bridge this unyielding chasm of judgment? The stakes rose higher. Maya hesitated, fingers brushing against the smooth body of the guitar, a relic of someone's past imbued with unknown stories. An involuntary awe coursed through her, mixed with a trepidation that was hard to shake off. This guitar represented something more than just an object. It was a tangible manifestation of her audacious leap into the mystery of kindness. It felt like a challenge. Had she truly begun to carve her own path, or had she merely stepped into someone else's narrative? As she lifted the guitar, the weight of it felt significant, like carrying the expectations of an entire town while still trying to balance her own aspirations. What was she now? A girl who dared to offer kindness? Or a girl who had been noticed by one of the most feared members of the community? Gripping the neck of the guitar, she could feel her fingers twitching with potential, a new realm of possibility opening up before her. Maya brought the instrument into her bedroom and set it down with a reverence usually reserved for art. The sun filtered through her window, casting golden rays that danced on the polished wood. She picked it up again, and as she strummed a few tentative chords, an unexpected symphony of emotions flooded her. It was terrifying how familiar it felt, like a hidden side of herself awakened from deep slumber. Being the only black girl in her community, she had often found herself straddling two worlds. Her love for music resonated with another culture, while her life soaked in the rhythms and heartbeat of her own. Yet there was a lingering question haunting her. Did she really belong in either? With each gentle pluck of a string, answers eluded her like shadows, teasing her consciousness. For the first time, the guitar nudged her towards self-assertion. Perhaps this was the key to merging her worlds instead of constantly feeling divided. Still, the reality of her peers weighed heavily. How would she be perceived if her talent surfaced? The fear of isolation nipped at her heels. She quickly sensed a challenge arise, not merely from her surroundings, but from within. Was she prepared to showcase a larger part of herself in a town that already held preconceptions about who she should be? The guitar felt heavier in her hands, echoing this internal conflict.
Was she daring to imagine a life where her identity was not a battleground for acceptance, but rather a canvas for her passions? Maya resolved to learn guitar, feeling an indomitable determination stirring within her. If Rogue had seen something worthy in her act of kindness, could she dare to reshape her narrative? The question lingered. Would this skill reflect her essence or merely propel her into another form of judgment? Days turned into weeks as the guitar became a companion in her solitary journey. Every evening she lost herself in music, her fingers dancing over strings while the notes soared, filling the silence with uncharted melodies. Yet external voices haunted her as friends began to notice her growing attachment to the guitar. Would her embrace of music expose yet another vulnerability? When someone remarked on her newfound passion, their tone was tinged with skepticism. "You're just going to be another kid with dreams that lead nowhere." As these comments echoed in the recesses of her mind, their weight amplified her uncertainty. In the thrill of creating something that resonated deeply with her, an urgent question beckoned. What if this journey of self-discovery led her away from the very acceptance she yearned for? Maya glanced at the guitar, feeling the tremors of an impending confrontation with self-doubt. The stakes had risen much higher than she ever imagined. It wasn't just about a relationship with kindness or music. It was about harnessing her true self in a world that didn't easily welcome it. And in the pulsating quiet after her final chord played out, she knew this moment was pivotal. The time had come for her to face the judgments of others. Would she rise above, or would she shrink back into the quiet shadows she feared? Strumming the strings one last time, she felt a growing urgency as each note intertwined with her resolve. The brimming confrontations loomed ahead, and beneath her uncertainties lay an undeniable strength just waiting to be unleashed. As days melted into weeks, Maya found herself drifting deeper into the world of music, her fingers deftly finding their place on the frets. Each evening, as shadows stretched across her room, she carved out time to practice, committed to untangling the knots in her musical understanding. Strumming the guitar began to ground her, squeezing out some of the uncertainty welling up inside. But freedom came at a price. Each note she played strummed along the delicate threads of her identity. She reflected on the reactions she'd sparked. They echoed like distant thunder. Had her guitar become a conduit for both truth and judgment? Her friend's skepticism loomed in her mind, the narrative of just another kid with dreams playing endlessly on repeat. It pressed against her like a weight, pulling on her resolve. More than once she caught sight of Rogue's initial curiosity about her kindness, and she found herself wrestling with one simple truth.
Did this generosity make her an anomaly worthy of intrigue, or just a target for mockery? Would people pivot from their expectations of her if she stepped forward with music? Determined to break free from the confines of doubt, Maya opted to confront her fears head-on. She decided to sign up for an open mic session at the local cafe, a decision that sent ripples of anxiety coursing through her. The thought alone nearly paralyzed her. She could picture herself on that stage, guitar in hand, exposed to a sea of judgmental eyes. Would her strumming evoke applause or scorn? Yet, carrying resistance into the light felt like the only way to resonate anything truly authentic. One drizzly afternoon, sitting cross-legged on her bedroom floor, Maya gazed intently at the guitar. Inspiration roared within her, urging her fingers to create a melody, one that melded her two worlds into an intimate harmony. Taking a deep breath, she began writing lyrics that encapsulated her struggles, experiences, and those fleeting moments of daring kindness that propelled her forward. Two worlds colliding. She murmured the words to herself, internalizing their significance. Where do I stand? Disconnect coursed through her veins, yet hope intertwined with the unease as she scribbled on the page. It felt like shedding the layers of fear, as each line revealed not just her music, but pieces of her soul that needed to surface. Weeks of practice culminated in a tense anticipation as the open mic date approached. The day arrived, and with it a cacophony of emotions. A turbulent mix of excitement and sheer terror washed over her. In her mind, the spectators materialized in all their judgmental glory, whispering about her precarious place in the folk music scene. Maya steely-eyed her reflection in the mirror. "Don't listen to them," she whispered, summoning every ounce of courage. "You belong in this space." With the guitar slung over her shoulder and notes still swirling in her mind, she headed toward the cafe, each step echoing the finality of her choice. Inside, the air buzzed with chatter, laughter, and the soft clinking of glasses.
As she walked further into the venue, she was met with familiar yet foreign faces, those who had known her as simply the kind girl. Would they accept her transformation into something more? With heart racing, she stepped onto the small stage, the spotlight bathing her in its glow. She swallowed hard, her mind racing through the lyrics. In that moment, she felt vulnerability wrap itself around her like a shawl. This was her stand. As she began to strum, that deep-seated need for acceptance wove into her melodies, and her fingers danced across the strings, giving life to a song that spoke of willingness, courage, and the intricate beauty of being caught between two worlds. Yet, even as Maya played, could she truly conquer the fear of judgment? Or would the echoes of doubt drown out the music she desperately tried to unleash?
Maya's fingers trembled against the strings, the world outside her music fading into a blur. She stole a quick glance at the audience, a sea of faces, some familiar with surprised smiles, others with arms crossed in skepticism. The first notes rang out, tentative, as if testing the waters of acceptance. Deep breaths urged her to find the pulse of the moment, but doubt swirled in her mind like a tempest, threatening to drown her out. As the song progressed, Maya surrendered to the music, letting it sweep her away. Each strum poured her heart into the room. Her essence rippled through her words. The lyrics danced between vulnerability and strength, exploring the intricate threads of identity that she had long grappled with. Suddenly, she locked eyes with a boy in the back, a casual listener who had often laughed at her earlier attempts to express herself. Instead of scorn, he wore an expression of genuine curiosity. Her resolve wavered, then strengthened. Was she truly at the whim of their judgments, or could her courage reshape them? Finishing her song, she paused, not sure if she should acknowledge the applause or the scattered whispers. She could perceive the shift in energy, close enough to catch snippets, some supportive, others lingering on the edge of mockery. Fighting the urge to flee, she bowed her head. Then, catching a glimmer of hope in Rogue's eyes, she felt a rush of exhilaration run through her. Maybe, just maybe, she had dared to stitch a little more of herself into the fabric of this world. Stepping off the stage, still buzzing from performance, Maya noticed the lingering sentiment of discomfort dissipate. In its place was a complex blend of camaraderie and introspection, an exchange that electrified the room. Conversation sparked with enthusiasm rather than disdain, and she found herself enveloped in light-hearted repartee with those who once doubted her. After the show, she gathered with friends, the once untouchable walls crumbling around her. They clapped her back, cracking jokes about missed notes and offbeat rhythms, but each laugh felt genuine. Yet her thoughts spiraled into query. Had she simply shifted their perceptions, or had she redefined her own narrative? Gratitude flickered through her, but self-doubt nibbled at her resolve. As the afterglow of performance granted her new perspective, an unexpected visit to the cafe compelled her to ask the server, a band member she had often admired, about their journey into music. The server's eyes lit up as they recounted stories of rejection and persistence, a mentor figure in the currents of Maya's daunting world. She felt a surge of recognition. She was propelled by the same fears, albeit now wielded against challenges like stepping onto that stage. Maya returned home, reflections racing through her mind. She crawled back to her guitar, fingers aching from the performance, and sang softly into the shadows.
weaving the richness of her experience into new melodies. The fear transformed into fire, each chord blazing with newfound power, a deep-seated desire to explore the threshold of her artistry without hesitation. Yet, as she strummed, flickers of uncertainty ignited. With cheers now fading, the reality of performance weighed heavy once more, whispers of the doubters re-emerging. Inspired, she pressed onward. She needed clarity, an answer to her artistic evolution. Was music truly the bridge she sought? Or was it a chasm that led deeper into vulnerability, echoing judgments she barely felt prepared to confront? Maya resolved to seize her narrative and share her struggles with those around her, including the boys who once laughed, as a way to clarify her truth. But could she effectively encapsulate her journey without succumbing to the defensive barriers that had long sheltered her? A new cycle of creation loomed, one that would test her emotional mettle in ways she couldn't yet anticipate. In the shadows of her small room, the uncertainty of the next step beckoned, a path of discomfort, potential rejection, and magnificent growth. Would she muster the courage needed to share her story beyond those open mic nights? The thought hung in the air like the last note of her song, a lingering resonance of both fear and conviction clashing for dominance, urging her to breathe and launch into her next melody. The boys, especially him, their laughter replayed in her mind like a taunt. What if she could take that resonance and weave it into her story? Determined to navigate her artistic evolution, Maya wrote a letter. The words poured out, unfiltered and raw, embracing the darkness she struggled to accept. She held the pen tight, thinking of moments where she had felt unseen, yet now she could transform that pain into strength through song. A mix of anger and sadness fueled her, guiding her hand as she outlined her narrative, including the laughter that had fueled both her reluctance and her resolve. After sealing the letter, she slipped it into her pocket, a talisman to confront the lingering doubts that buried themselves in her mind. She was done shackling her heart to the fears of others. The following day, Maya walked into school with a new conviction. Every step resonated with her purpose, a purpose to reclaim her narrative. Afternoon sunlight streamed through the hallway windows as she approached the group that had once belittled her passion. Her heart raced, nerves coiling tightly around her resolve. As she took a deep breath, she noticed the boy, the one with curiosity. He glanced her way, catching her bold stare. "Can we talk?" she asked, voice steady despite the tremor within. Maya could see recognition flicker in his expression. About what? She pulled out the letter, the inked words trembling against her palms. About everything. About the music, the doubts, and the reason I perform. His brow furrowed, the mask of skepticism beginning to fall away as he gave her his full attention. In that moment, she saw a glimmer of understanding, a space where laughter might shift from mockery to connection. But as her story spilled forth, each word burdened with the weight of her experiences, a sudden wave of vulnerability crashed over her. Would he embrace this version of her, one that laid bare her insecurities? The silence stretched, full of potential, but haunted by uncertainty. She was unearthing a part of herself she had kept hidden for too long. Would he understand? Maya took another breath, steadying herself, as the next crash of sound grew louder in her heart. The realization that she stood on the precipice of empowerment, ready to face whatever followed.
The truth echoed in her mind. This was merely the beginning. She was ready to dive deeper into her artistry, but what awaited her in the depths? The thought lingered as she braced herself for his response. His expression shifted, as if he were sorting through confusion and curiosity. "You're serious about this," he said finally, a hint of surprise coloring his tone. Maya nodded, the letter still gripped tightly in her hand. It wasn't just a piece of paper, it was a mirror reflecting a truth she had kept hidden from herself and the world for too long. "What do you want me to say?" he asked, crossing his arms defensively. It stung, the way he closed himself off.
As they exchanged glances, she felt a spark ignite, a collaborative unearthing where she could transform her vulnerability into artistic power. "What if I could create something powerful?" she mused aloud, almost adopting his skepticism. "Can you imagine?" He considered her, a new light flickering in his eyes. "You've got guts, Maya. I admire that." A surge of warmth flooded her chest. They had transformed an impending confrontation into understanding, and it fueled her resolve. Yet the nagging reminder of potential failure reverberated beneath her excitement. As she turned to leave, she felt the weight of destiny nudging her onward. "I'll share it soon," she said softly, casting a lingering glance back at him. "Good," he replied, a newfound sincerity breaking in. "I'll be there." Yet as she stepped away, exhilaration mixed with trepidation settled deep within her. What if the doubt continued to haunt her? What if her fears overshadowed her songs? But the desire to write with authenticity had ignited something primal. Maya was ready to uncover the depths of her voice, but the choices she would make next could lead to liberation or devastation. The idea unfolded and blossomed, impossible to ignore. What awaited her on the edge of vulnerability, the very heart of her artistry? She could feel the anticipation building like a swell in the ocean, surging toward a milestone she could hardly yet comprehend. The song was still unwritten, tension thickening with every step as she braced for what came next. Maya walked away, the cool evening air wrapping around her like a familiar cloak. Each stride pulsed with a mix of excitement and anxiety that twined together in her chest. The conversation had unfolded like the early notes of a song she had yet to write. Yet looming shadows of doubt still swarmed her thoughts. What if her performance fell flat? Would the laughter come down again, heavy and mocking? With each step, she reviewed the words she had exchanged, replaying them like a mantra. "Fear won't dictate who I am." The phrase lingered in her mind, a resounding promise she made to herself. The challenge lay before her was not merely about writing a song. It was about shaping her identity and existence into something raw and real. Arriving home, she sank onto her worn sofa, the familiar creaks echoing in the silent room. The possibility of transformation felt palpable, yet the implications weighed her down. Pulling out her guitar, she began to strum familiar chords, seeking grounding in something she understood. Where once joy resonated in her fingers, uncertainty settled in. Could she turn her fears into notes that spoke truthfully? Would anyone listen? Glimmers of inspiration flickered, but the voices of judgment crept back. What if it isn't good enough? What if they find more pleasure in laughter than in your story? Each thought was a counterstrike against her resolve, but she clutched at the letter she still held. It was a promise wrapped in a half-written story waiting to emerge. Days turned into a blur of rehearsals, scribbled lyrics, and late-night confessions to the moon. She poured her emotions into the music, tearing down the walls built by years of doubt. What if her vulnerability were her strength? Each note became a fortification, stacking her truths on top of one another until they formed a solid foundation, a bridge connecting her heart to the world outside. The day of the performance approached like the looming silhouette of thunderheads ready to break. Confidence began to weave its way through her composure, although the anxiety still tugged at her. Would she fend off the laughter she had dreaded for so long? The thought pushed her, igniting something deeper within. She wasn't merely preparing to sing, she was preparing to stand up for herself, for every moment of silence that had held her back. Each encounter with others during this time was laced with new vigor. Even in the simplest exchanges, she felt an unspoken connection, as if her transformation made them more aware of their own paths and struggles. It was as though she had uncovered a hidden doorway into empathy, and it startled her. As she gazed in the mirror, the reflection was no longer shrouded in fear, but something closer to courage. Yet the thought of facing that crowd twisted her stomach. What if they didn't hear her? What if her honesty came at a price? Just moments before leaving, Maya's resolve faltered. A fragile thread pulled taut between courage and trepidation. Inhaling deeply, she closed her eyes. An awakening, a realization illuminated her thoughts like a flickering beacon amidst the dark. This performance was hers alone to own. Stepping into the unknown was part of the artistry she sought. She opened her eyes, ready to climb that precarious ladder of vulnerability, each rung promising a view previously unseen. And as she gathered her guitar and stepped outside, she felt the world shift underfoot. It was now or never. Would she embrace this chance to sing her truth? Would the audience welcome her, or would her fears manifest in laughter? A final thought seized her as she prepared to take the stage. The time had come to face my fears head on. What awaited her was not just performance, but an unveiling of herself. Standing there, would she finally get the chance to show the world who she truly was? The lights were dimmed, the audience's murmurs swirling like soft currents in a hidden stream. Maya stood in the shadows, clutching her guitar with a grip both firm and trembling. Heart pounding, she could feel the weight of potential, the potential to transcend the very fears that had shackled her for so long. As her name rang out through the space, she stepped into the glow of the spotlight, each footfall igniting a small fire of possibility within her. She had imagined this moment countless times, yet the reality struck her con un surge. This was not just about music. It was a declaration, a bold affirmation of self. Maya focused on the guitar, her fingers finding their way to the strings. The first chord resonated, a pure note slicing through the buzz of her anxious thoughts. A hush fell over the crowd, as if they too understood what this moment meant for her. The familiar warmth of the instrument spilled into her fingertips, and she experienced a flicker of the confidence she had cultivated in the weeks leading up to this night. Yet the shadows cast by her doubts flitted at the edges of her mind. What if her voice wavered? What if they laughed? She fought against the tightening in her chest, determined to channel that fear into something beautiful. Taking a deep breath, she began to sing. The words flowed out, raw and unfiltered, weaving a tapestry of emotions that felt both alien and intimately hers. Each line was a thread stitched into her identity, revealing the complexities of her journey, her struggles, her hopes, and the shadows she had clawed through. As her voice gained strength, she locked eyes with some members of the audience, seeking affirmation and connection. Expressions transformed. What began as scrutiny melted into understanding. Maya experienced a revelation during sua performance. Vulnerability was not her weakness, it was her strength. With every note, she unveiled layers of herself, inviting others to witness not just the artist, but the person beneath the facade. The anxiety that had clung to her resolved into a power, a shared moment of humanity between her and the audience. Yet the journey was far from over. The final chord hung in the air like a suspended breath, and for a heartbeat time seemed to freeze. Applause erupted, swelling around her like a tidal wave. But within the swell of relief came a new uncertainty. Had she shared enough? Would this moment spark deeper connections, or merely highlight the differences that frightened her for so long? As she stepped off the stage, her heart raced, not from performance fatigue, but from the buzzing realization that the night was more significant than accolades. Conversations erupted around her. A woman approached, eyes shimmering with unshed tears, thanking Maya for expressing what she had long felt silent about. Another crowd member expressed how they related to her story, their shared struggles echoing down the corridors of their lives. Maya felt the warmth of these exchanges wrap around her like a competitive embrace, igniting a fire of new-found purpose. These interactions illuminated a path she had long walked alone. Now they felt enveloped in a collective understanding. But as she navigated through the crowd, a moment of hesitation gripped her. If she had revealed so much of herself tonight, how would she cope with the next step? What awaited her beyond this initial success?
Questions unfurled in her mind like slow ribbons, fraying her confidence. Standing in that chaotic symphony of laughter, applause, and exchange, a new understanding began to stir deep within. This was merely the beginning of something significantly larger than her mere performance. Turning to face the open door at the venue's exit, she contemplated the inevitable. Where did this new path lead? Would she claim her voice in the midst of the multitude, or retreat to old habits and fears? One thing was clear: a new chapter was waiting. As she took a step forward, the door loomed open with a soft click, inviting her into the unknown. What awaited her beyond was about to unravel deeper meanings about life, identity, and indelible connection. Would she have the courage to embrace it? Maya stepped into the cool night air, the weight of her guitar shifting as she navigated the throngs of people still buzzing from the performance. The shadows danced along the street, illuminated by flickering neon signs and the distant sound of laughter. She breathed deeply, inhaling the mix of fresh air and excitement, yet uncertainty lingered just beneath the surface. While she felt liberated on stage, the reality of what she had shared gnawed at her. Had her words resonated deeply enough?
The warmth of genuine connections had felt sweet, but vulnerability left a bitter aftertaste, its implications swirling in her mind. This was not merely the aftermath of a performance, it was the brink of a new existence, fraught with the perpetual challenge of self-discovery. Maya raised her head, determined to meet the world beyond the venue. A bar next door was bustling, the sound of a live band filtering out into the night, pulling her like a siren's call. The thought of a post-performance drink felt enticing yet daunting. Would her presence there become another platform for exposure, or would it merely serve as refuge from the monumental shift she was facing? As she crossed the threshold of the bar, the dim interior enveloped her. Familiar faces swam around the room, yet what truly snagged her attention was the stage to the side, where a small group of musicians were tuning their instruments. Each instrument shimmered under the low light, offering a promise of stories yet untold. She felt an absurd mix of eagerness and fear. Her competition was palpable, the urgency in the room igniting the budding artist in her. Taking cautious steps towards the bar, she ordered a drink, trying to drown the self-doubt swirling within. The bartender offered her a smile, a reflection she recognized in herself, perhaps still holding echoes of her words from moments earlier. "You played beautifully," he said. And that sincerity sparked a flicker of gratitude deep within her. "Thank you," she replied, her voice stronger than she anticipated. Maya felt surges of confidence overlapping with doubt again, a wrestling match she had started on stage, yet now played out in the thrumming heart of the bar. What came next? Repeating her performance felt both alluring and terrifying. Risks nestled within the safety of the ordinary. Could she agree to embrace them? As she sipped her drink, her gaze fell upon a young guitarist in the corner, strumming softly to himself. His body language was at ease, devoid of showmanship, yet there was authenticity in each note he played. Maya felt herself yearning for that same ease. She wrestled with the urge to join in, to share the voice that had echoed moments ago in front of a crowd. What if her presence drew attention to her flaws? What if they didn't connect with her song as she did? Her heart raced as the guitarist stood, asking if anyone would like to join him. It was brief, an ephemeral invitation lingering in the air, laden with possibility. The choice loomed over her like a heavy curtain waiting to be drawn. Should she step into that spotlight again, half-formed and exposed, or remain anchored in uncertainty? In that moment, the allure of connection tempted her further. The echoes of the evening resounded in her mind, the warmth of shared stories pushing her toward courage. Perhaps this time, instead of performing for validation, she could engage for artistic evolution. Maya saw the flicker of opportunity for growth laid out in front of her, an opportunity to explore her craft and take part in a collective act of creation. The fear that often seized her morphed into a plan, a decision to embrace who she was becoming. Could she face that young guitarist, reveal herself, and rise into something richer than merely an audience member? With her drink now only a memory in her hand, she took a step toward the stage, her pulse racing in harmony with the thrill of uncertainty. But what awaited her became clearer.
The time had come for her to confront not only her voice, but also the world and every interaction within it. What would she discover about herself through this small but significant choice? Maya stood poised before the small stage, guitar cradled in her arms like a treasure. The bar buzzed with laughter and music, but for her all of that faded into the background as her mind buzzed with questions. Could she sustain the connections she'd forged after that initial performance? Could she create new ones? Taking a deep breath, she stepped forward. The young guitarist eyed her with a welcoming smile, tossing her a lifeline. She approached him, heart racing in her chest, squashing the remnants of doubt that still lingered at the edges of her consciousness. "Can I join you?" "Absolutely," he replied, adjusting the mic stand toward her. She climbed on stage and prepared to strum alongside him, realizing that now she was not just seeking acceptance, she was offering an interpretation of something uniquely hers.
She, Forcia, not merely a girl who performed. She was a creator, a bridge builder, and a true embodiment of resilience. Ready to write the next stanza of her life, she stepped forward into the world with solid confidence, ready to share every vulnerable note she had yet to compose. This chapter was only the beginning. The blank pages ahead promised growth, stories to intertwine, and a powerful connection to those around her. With sharpened artistry and an unwavering spirit, Maya knew that the true essence of her journey lay not simply in offering kindness, but in being continually shaped by it.